Ladies and germs, let me just... Oh, that's the wrong button, because I'm a moron and a boomer, and I'm checking the audio. Yep. Okay, I probably should have done that. Alright, hello, Swan Lake Lady. Alright, everyone, we can see I'm completely stationary. Stream has started. I'm touching no buttons for the sake of legality. Let's go.
But you made the decision to...
Oh. Sorry, I completely forgot to do any sort of an intro. Welcome back to, what are we? Stream number 10. We are at day 9. We're still catching up on Kane McLaughlin. We've got a few people that we still need to catch up on. I'm aware that I'm a few days behind, but screw it. I'm doing what I can when I can. So we are going to enjoy our time together. So let's get stuck in.
Stop asking her questions?
I did.
Did you ask her any more questions after she said I hit him?
I decided not to.
At some point after you spoke to the defendant, did you go back to the ambulance and tell anybody, any of your colleagues?
I did.
And why would you do that?
That's the whole point of me trying to get more information, is that I get the information and I bring it back to the people who are treating the patient. So.
Did you go back to the ambulance and repeat that information
So
to
you
your colleagues?
provided them with inaccurate information.
Did you have any other?
You literally said, oh, I didn't stop to find out how she hit him, whether or not she slapped him, whether or not she hit him with a sledgehammer, whether or not she hit him with her car. I just made the assumption. Yeah, that's not inappropriate at all.
Other further role at the scene as far as helping the man or doing anything else?
No, other than I drove the ambulance to the hospital.
With the gentleman in the ambulance?
Yes.
Did you learn who that person was?
Yes.
Did you know at the time who it was?
No.
When you got to 34 Fairview, did you recognize the home when you got there?
No.
Did you later learn who lived at that home?
Yes.
Did you know somebody who had lived at that home?
Yes.
Did you know that person lived there prior to that night?
I learned that she lived there.
Okay. And that person that you knew lived there, what is their name?
Caitlin Albert.
How did you know Caitlin Albert?
We went to high school together. We're in the same grade. We have...
The fact that he's sitting there phrasing it in past tense. Did you know her? Did you learn that somebody had lived there? They fucking know each other. There's photos of them as recently as 2 years ago. I haven't seen whether or not there's even any that are more recent than that. I mean, not that it really matter because they would have reconnected as part of the trial. But the phrasing that they keep going on about, oh, it's in the past, trying to distance themselves from the Alberts, it's a crock of shit.
Mutual friends, and growing up, we had different friend groups, but those groups would often get together in bigger groups and hang out. I see her in group settings. I socialize with her occasionally. I don't have a personal relationship with her. I wouldn't consider her to be a friend of mine, but I do see her occasionally because of social events. I don't have a one-on-one. I don't have a close personal relationship with her.
Was she a friend on social media back at the time?
Yeah.
Since this event, have you been on any outings or trips with friends of hers or in a group setting where she was present?
I don't remember ever seeing her since then.
Had you ever talked to her about your role that night?
Never.
Did the fact that somebody you knew lived in that house have anything to do with your treatment and care that morning?
Not at all.
When you saw the man in the back of the ambulance, did you make...
But knowing it after the fact, did it have any way of influencing your testimony given both here and in previous hearings?
Take note whether he was missing any clothing items?
He was missing a shoe. A sneaker.
Have you in any way been coached?
I'd like, of course,
Has your job in any way been
play
coached?
Exhibit 4, part of it.
Okay.
Ms. Gilman, if you can start at 6:13:45. Stop, please. Do you recognize whether or not you're in that video, ma'am?
Yes.
What color jacket are you wearing?
I'm in the red and yellow jacket.
Okay, continue, please.
I heard today was a bit of a clusterfuck. I'm looking forward to it.
Stop, please. There are two yellow jackets, one on the left, one in the middle of the screen. Do you know which one is you?
I'm now in the middle of the screen.
Continue, please.
Come on,
Stop,
don't
please.
drink so
Do you know who that is
right
on the left
there.
of the screen at the flagpole?
Which one?
To the left. If you could play a few more seconds, Ms. Gilman.
It's two officers and a civilian woman.
Okay. How about on the left? Do you know who that is?
Oh, no.
That time is 6:15:12. If you could continue, please. Stop, please. Is that you, ma'am, in the yellow?
Yes.
Okay, continue, please. Stop, please. Do you see yourself on that screen?
Yes.
What color jacket?
The red and yellow.
And who's to your left?
Miss Reed.
And across from you, with the blue or black jacket with the hood. Do you know who that is at this time?
Miss McCabe.
And you didn't know her at the time?
No.
Do you see the officer that's turned away from you?
Yes.
Do you know who he's speaking to?
No.
Do you know the exact moment that the defendant told you, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him?
I think it was just prior to that.
Okay, continue.
Oh, Jason, I very much believe that Proctor will be showing his face. There's no way in hell the defense doesn't put him on the stand. And if he's not going to get, if he's not going to answer the subpoena, well,
Thank you.
be interesting
I have
to see
no
a
further
former Massachusetts state police officer be arrested.
Good morning, Mr. Laughlin.
Good morning.
You indicated that
Oh, that was a bad
one of the
choice.
things that is paramount to the life-saving effort or the medical assistance that you and your colleagues provide is to determine what the cause is of the injury, correct?
To determine, just to gather as much information as we can about his history and like recent events that could have precipitated how we found the patient.
What you said on direct examination was, quote, what happened and what's going on, end quote, correct?
Yes.
So for instance, the what happened, you want to find out and to differentiate what happened. Is it a gunshot?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. When you're asking what happened, you're trying to determine what happened. For instance, one of the things you're trying to do is differentiate between a gunshot and a knife wound, correct?
Yes.
Or poison or ingestion of a poisonous substance or a heart attack.
Yeah. In this particular,
I'm
this
not asking
scenario,
about
it's
this instance.
Next question.
Thank you. I'm asking about in general, when you're taking on information, trying to download information at a scene, you're trying to determine, as you said, quote, what happened, correct?
Yeah.
That's important to determine, correct?
Yeah.
You want to get the person's age. You want to get the person's date of birth. You want to get the person's allergies, for instance.
Yep.
But you also, paramount among those, you want to find out what happened. Why are we here? Correct?
Yes.
Did the person fall out of a tree? Or
Right.
stumble down a stair step? Correct?
Right.
In doing so, it's important to relay that information to others as well. You would agree with that, correct?
Yes.
That's the whole point, Ms. McLaughlin. You want to gather the information and then let others know exactly what happened, document that as best you possibly can so that the life-saving efforts or the medical assistance can continue for the patient, correct?
Yeah, you have to share the information that you got with the people who are providing care.
And one of the ways you do that is by writing it down, correct?
No.
No.
Can I ask you, who did you speak with before your testimony today, in anticipation of your testimony today?
I met with the DA's office a few times.
Who at the DA's office?
Mr. Brennan, a witness advocate, and there were different troopers there at different meetings.
What did you and Mr. Brennan discuss at these? Well, let me ask you, first of all, foundationally, how many meetings were there?
3.
3. When were they?
One in maybe January was just a meeting. One a few weeks ago, we reviewed the testimony from the last proceeding. And then yesterday, briefly to say that I'm getting called and I'm going today, and if I had any questions.
Let's talk about the one a couple of weeks ago. Where was that meeting held?
At the DA's office.
And you said you reviewed testimony with whom?
I watched the testimony from the first trial. It was Mr. Brennan, myself, a witness advocate, and perhaps Trooper Tully.
And you and Mr. Brennan went over your testimony at the last proceeding, correct?
We just watched it.
Okay.
Yeah.
There obviously were questions about that testimony once you finished watching it, I'm guessing, correct?
I guess so.
Discussed certain aspects of the testimony, is that right?
What the fuck? How do you?
Yeah.
Mr. Brennan told you that, for instance, he was going to bring out on direct examination, his examination, your relationship with Caitlin Albert, correct?
He said, I will ask you about the relationship.
And that was in anticipation of me asking about that relationship, correct?
Objection. Sustained.
Did Mr. Brennan tell you that he wanted to make sure that he brought out that information so that it wasn't brought out on cross-examination by me?
Objection. Sustained.
What did Mr. Brennan say about the reason he wanted to bring out the relationship with Caitlin Albert on cross-examination?
There was no reason that he gave.
But he did tell you that he wanted to make sure that y'all covered that on direct examination during his examination, correct?
Objection. Sustained.
Did he say something like that?
No.
Did you say something like that? I would like this information brought out so it's not brought out on cross-examination?
No.
At the last hearing when you testified about a year ago, that wasn't brought out on direct examination, was it?
Objection. Sustained.
May we approach?
Oh god, Jackson's doing what he can while being hamstrung, I swear to god. But seriously, how do you go, oh, I had a meeting, we watched the video. I don't know if there were questions after the fact. For fuck's sake. If your memory is that bad of something that happened a couple of weeks ago, how's anyone supposed to trust your memory for anything that happened years ago? Like, I'm sorry. And the whole thing, oh yeah, no, we don't write down information in order to pass it on to others. Okay, fine, but you're still supposed to get the accurate information to pass on to others. Not half-ass it, not... That's like saying to someone, oh, someone says to her, he's having an allergic reaction to medication. Okay. And she stops there. She then puts him in the ambulance and tells the guys, oh, he's having an allergic reaction to medication. What medication? If we give him more of it, we could kill him. Like, seriously. And just the evasiveness just pisses me the fuck off. I don't know how they do this, honestly. Yeah, and because she's a first responder, they can't lie. Well, I'd say that Proctor pretty well blew that myth out of the water.
May I continue, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. McLaughlin, we were talking about very briefly your testimony about a year ago. In your testimony a year ago, you did not disclose in your initial conversation the fact of your relationship with Miss Albert, did you?
I object. I move for an instruction.
So the objection sustained. Next question.
Who was it that asked the question about Miss Albert a year ago?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you tell
What the fuck? The transcript's public.
Trooper Proctor, any investigator, anybody from the DA's office last year about your relationship with Caitlin Albert?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Of course it's gonna be an
no,
objection.
only when there started to be a lot of harassment and things insinuations and stuff that started coming out online. I had said maybe once to them that I was concerned I was being harassed.
My question, Ms. McLaughlin, was before the information was
The
disclosed, which was during the first proceeding.
Oh, I'm sorry. People questioning your integrity because you kept something from the jury is harassment now, is it? Jesus Christ.
Objection.
Let's hear the question.
Before that information was disclosed during the first proceeding, in any of your interviews with Michael Proctor or anybody else from the DA's office, did you disclose, from the Massachusetts State Police or anybody from the DA's office, did you disclose, did you volunteer that you had a relationship with Caitlin Albert before the first proceeding?
Yeah, I'm saying I told the DA about the harassment and the insinuations. That was before the first trial when I met with them.
How was there harassment and insinuations if it hadn't been disclosed at the first proceeding?
Because it's out there everywhere on the internet and has been.
Before the
That's
first
not
proceeding,
harassment.
Ms. McLaughlin,
It's-
before you ever testified. That's my question. Do you understand my question?
It's been going on since before the first proceeding.
If you hadn't testified at the first proceeding, at which point it was revealed, how could you have ever suffered any harassment for it? It wasn't disclosed yet, Ms. McLaughlin.
Exactly.
Do you understand?
Posting information
I don't
online
think you
is not
understand what I'm
harassment.
saying.
Who did you tell at the DA's office?
The relationship that I
Sorry. Let me clarify that. Posting publicly available information online is not harassment. Doxing people is harassment. Cursing it, well, I mean, you know. We know what harassment is, and what you endured was not harassment. It was, oh, she's lying. She has prior relationships with the Alberts. And that just being posted online. Just because you don't like something being said about you does not mean it's harassment. It doesn't raise the level of harassment.
had with Caitlin Albert had been out there. It had been published and proliferated on the internet. And so that was before the first proceeding.
And who did you tell at the DA's office about this before the first proceeding?
I don't remember who it was or the meeting, but
Was it Mr. Lowry?
it could have been.
Do you have a memory of that?
Not specifically. I don't remember who it was.
Was it Ms. McLaughlin?
Like I said, I don't remember
Not you,
specifically.
obviously. Miss Laura McLaughlin, no relationship.
Like I said, not specifically.
No, I will disagree with you there, Jason, because if you're posting the publicly available information with the purpose of having malicious intent, I believe that is harassment. That's the difference between doxing and just providing information. It's a malicious intent.
Let's talk about that initial call to 34 Fairview. You responded to the call of an unresponsive male in the snow. That was early morning hours of January 29th, correct?
Yes.
Once you were there, Mr. O'Keefe had been placed on a gurney and moved to the ambulance. You were instructed to go get information about the victim.
Yes.
You've described in a video the basic scene where you claim that this statement was made by my client, correct?
Yes.
That was a situation in which you're standing there, Ms. Reed is standing there, Ms. McCabe is standing across from you, and
Miss Reed was on the right, Miss McCabe was on the left, and then there was a officer kind of diagonal across from me.
that person was
Yes.
just a still shot.
Thank you.
So, Buffalo, can you tell me if you recognize the still shot you did in that photograph?
I recognize me in it. Yes.
And when is that approximately? Is that
Oh, she farted? I thought it was
what
a
you're
snort.
describing is that time in which you're standing there, I'm guessing in the yellow jacket, Ms. Reed's to your right, Ms. McCabe's to your left. And there's
No,
officers
that's
standing directly
different because the
across
President of the United States is a
Yes.
public figure, and that's
Is this
public
the time
information, Jason. Don't be
that-
obtuse.
you indicate that that statement was made.
Reductio ad absurdum
Around
isn't
this
going
time.
to work in my chat,
That
thank
mark
you.
is, next in order, Your Honor.
Any objections, Mr. Brennan?
None, thank you.
May I retrieve?
My address is technically public knowledge. However, if someone posted online with the intent of someone swatting me, for example, that's harassment.
Do you remember the name of the officer that was standing directly across from you when you indicate that this statement was made?
I didn't know, but I am aware now.
But, and by the way, that officer's name is what?
Officer Sarif.
Oh, hello, Nikki C. Thank you for dropping by.
You're describing a situation in which you're standing there, Miss Reed is next to you, within earshot is a uniformed police officer, and she said, I hit him, correct?
Correct.
Then he said, what? Is that right?
So it's I hit him. Miss McCabe interjected, and then she said I hit him, and then the officer said, "You what?" And then she said I hit him, and he said, "Go get Goody down here."
Okay, so is that 3 times or 4 times that you indicate she said I hit him?
4 times.
And you, according to you, you indicate that at the time that Ms. Reed made these statements, she was hysterical and somewhat out of control. Is that right?
She was upset. I would say hysterical. Yeah.
Did you describe her last year as obviously upset, overly
Yes,
frantic?
that's correct,
and
Jason, but I
almost
still think
hysterical?
that's a very
Yeah, I believe it. I
weak
remember that.
argument, Frank. Because if you can impugn the original
If we could play exhibit
intention
4,
of the original poster, then they should be both liable.
starting at 9, court submission, starting at 9:15, about 9:46. Can you stop it? Did you see the 2 people enter from screen right?
Yes,
Who is that?
that would be myself and Miss Reed.
Okay, this is the first point at which you and Ms. Reed
She
begin
absolutely had a right to ask
to,
follow-up questions. She absolutely should
converge
have asked
with the other 2
follow-up
individuals, Ms. McCabe and the officer, correct?
I had started trying to gather the information prior to this, and then she was moving around, so I had kind of was following her, asking the questions, and then we eventually came, here to this point and came to a stop.
So my answer, your answer is yes. This is the point at which you converged with Ms. McCabe and the
Yes,
officer.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and play it. Pause it. You see yourself sort of in the foreground of the bright jacket?
Yep.
And Ms. Reed's just on the other side of it, correct?
Yes,
Standing there.
yes.
Well, yeah, Bobby, but apparently you can't trust any of the reports anyway because either they're faulty or they're inaccurate or they contain information that Jen McCabe just didn't say. Spotto.
Okay.
Traffic is all over the road. Slowpokes won't be
Mr.
complaining,
McLaughlin,
though.
during that video, that's the time in which you say, or you claimed last year that Ms. Reed was, in your words, obviously upset, overly frantic, and almost hysterical, correct?
Yes.
Did she look almost hysterical in that video?
She was, well, in that video, that could not explain what that scene was like.
Did she look overly frantic in that video?
She was frantic throughout the whole scene. I think that was me describing the entire scene.
I see.
Yeah.
So she did not look overly frantic in that video.
She was upset for sure.
Was she overly frantic and almost hysterical in that video? Just now.
I don't know that you could really see from that video.
Did you see anything that appeared to be overly frantic and almost hysterical?
Like I said, that video is not really you can't hear anything, so it's hard to.
Was she running around?
She had been.
I didn't ask you if she had been.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that happened. When she's standing there with you, was she running around?
No, she had just stopped running around.
Was she gesticulating?
I don't know.
Do you know what that means?
I don't.
Was she using her arms and going crazy?
Was she waving her arms around?
She had been, but
I didn't
like
ask
I
you if
said,
you had been.
yeah, but I
I'm asking
think
you about what happened before you
you're-
got there. I'm asking
so-
you what happened when. I'm sorry.
Question and answer, please.
Thank you. I'm not asking you what happened before we got to that video. Right? I'm asking you about the video in which you described her previously as being overly frantic and almost hysterical. Did she look like she was just gesticulating and moving her arms and spinning in circles?
not in that video.
Okay, thank you. And according to you,
Well, as in the vacuum
that's the
robots
point
are
at
leaking
which
people's nudes.
Ms.
That's
McCabe
funny.
said, I think you need to calm down, correct?
Yes.
And according to you, that's the point at which Ms. McCabe said, you're hysterical, correct?
Yes.
Just so I'm clear, who in that video, Ms. Reed or Ms. McCabe, appeared to be doing most of the talking?
You cannot see from that video.
Who in that video
I don't know.
appeared to be gesticulating with their arms? My client or Ms. McCabe?
I think Miss McCabe was doing that, saying you need to calm down. You're hysterical.
Oh, the whole time she's gesticulating, she's saying, calm down, Karen, you're being hysterical. Calm down, you're hysterical. Just repeating that?
She was trying to get her to stop and to calm down because of the statement she was making,
I see.
and she was trying to get her to stop, calm down.
I see. Okay. So during that entire video, that was probably 40, 50 seconds or so, maybe a minute. That's what you're saying now. Ms. McCabe was gesticulating and saying, calm down, Karen. You need to stop making statements. Calm down. Right? That's what she was doing.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you'll agree that Ms. Reed was standing relatively quietly to your right, not saying much of anything.
No, what she had just said, she had seemed upset when she said that, and what she said was obviously Miss McCabe was trying to convince her that that was not. You need to calm down. Stop saying that.
Right in front of a police officer who never said he heard her say.
Objection.
Correct?
Sustained.
You were standing 18 inches, 2 feet from Officer Seraph, correct?
I don't know exactly.
Well, give me an idea. I mean, 2
I-
feet, 3 feet, whatever.
He was standing near me.
And he was standing even closer to my client, wasn't he?
Yes.
At this moment, when you claim to have heard the "I hit him" repeated 4 times, where was Officer Flamati? I'm sorry, where's Firefighter Flamati and Firefighter Nuttall?
In the ambulance.
With the doors closed.
Yes.
In the ambulance, this is my ignorance, I'm assuming the engine was running?
Yep.
I'm assuming that there's some sort of heating system inside that ambulance to keep it nice and warm for patients.
Yes.
That was running as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yeah.
So with that door closed, those doors closed, how many feet away, by the way, from where we were looking? How many feet away? How many yards away?
I don't know. We were fairly close to the ambulance.
Further than you and I are from each other right now, or closer?
I think closer.
Okay. How about now?
I'm not sure.
So, engine's running, Nuttall's in the ambulance, doors are closed, and yet he allegedly says that he heard Karen Reed say, "I hit him," to this chick. Hope you're going to hit that one on the nail, Jackson. Sorry, you're going to hit that nail on the head, I should say.
Ambulance was behind us. I'm not sure how close we were.
Right. At least a few yards.
Sure.
Okay. And those doors are pretty thick, secure metal doors that lock. Is that right?
Yes.
Obviously, when you saw them, I know you don't know what was happening inside the ambulance, but when you saw them, Firefighter Nuttall and Firefighter Flamati were engaged in life-saving measures with Mr. O'Keefe, one doing the bag, one doing chest compressions, as they entered into the ambulance, which you did see, correct?
Yes.
Those doors closed, would you presume, from your experience, that those life-saving measures and their focus was on John O'Keefe, that continued?
Yes.
You testified that you went back to the ambulance at some point, and you told Firefighter Flamati and Firefighter Nuttall what you claimed to have heard. You told this jury, correct?
I went back to the ambulance after that, and I told them what was said and gave them the demographic information that I got.
Okay. So in other words, Firefighter Flamati and Firefighter Nuttall heard it from you. You didn't say it to somebody else, and they reported it to those two. They heard it directly from you, correct?
I went back and I said, I gave the demographics, and I said, she's saying I hit him.
Right. So in other words, they heard that from you.
I gave them.
Is
Objection.
that yes or no?
Objection.
She answered the question. Next question.
want to ask you a couple of questions
That
about.
might be the first time
your
that Dev's rough
relationship
road shot over
with
into
Caitlin
that.
Albert. You were asked at a hearing about a year ago, back in May last year, May 3rd, as a matter of fact, 2024, about that relationship. Do you remember what your answer was?
No, not specifically.
You remember saying, in response to the question, who's Caitlin Albert, asked by me,
I don't remember specifically what I said.
did you say, I went to high school with someone named
Refresh your
Caitlin Albert?
recollection to see a
Have
transcript.
the page number in line, please.
May 3rd transcript, 10-24, lines 2 and 3. Did you say, I went to high school with someone named Caitlin Albert?
I believe so.
Refresh your recollection, take a look at your transcript.
Sure.
All right, folks. I'll be back in a minute.
No, May 4th. Yes, second. Let me look. I have May 3.
Okay, thank you, Brennan. Thank you.
May I approach?
Yes.
Let me wait for you.
No, no.
You see that? Yeah.
Yes.
Did that refresh your recollection as to what your answer was to the question, who's Caitlin Albert?
Yes.
Did you say, quote, I went to high school with somebody named Caitlin Albert?
Yes.
Ms. McLaughlin, that was not a full and accurate statement of your relationship with Caitlin Albert, correct?
I object.
Was that accurate?
I mean, that's a fact. That's
Okay, next question.
All right, I'd like to be seen.
All right. Mr. Jackson, orange. Go ahead.
In answer to that question, the open-ended question, who's Caitlin Albert, you didn't offer up in that first initial response. You didn't offer up. You didn't say we're friends, did you?
We're not.
You didn't say that we are in the same friend group, did you?
No.
You didn't say we've been friends since high school.
No.
You said, I went to high school with someone named Caitlin Albert, correct?
Yes.
Almost as if you just saw her name in a yearbook.
No, I don't agree with that.
That's not true, is it? I mean, that wouldn't be true, correct? Because you did know Caitlin Albert.
That is true. And you asked me if I knew her, and I said yes. And you asked me if I'm friends with her, and I said I wouldn't say friends.
You wouldn't say friends.
Right.
Even as you sit here today, you would not say that you're friends with Caitlin Albert.
No.
You wouldn't say that you've been friends for years.
We've known each other for years.
That wasn't my question.
We've known each other for years, but we are not close friends. We don't have a relationship, just her one-on-one.
You
It's
grew up-
just group settings.
You grew up in the same town together, correct?
We did.
Went to the same middle school together.
Correct.
Went to the same high school together.
Yes.
Socialized with her.
Yes.
Taken day trips with her and others.
Yes.
Taken beach trips with her and others.
Yes.
Taken 4th of July weekend getaways with her and others.
I don't remember that, but
One of your best friends named Michaela actually lived with Caitlin Albert at college, didn't she?
yes.
And you visited your best
She did
friend
what now?
at that residence where she lived with Caitlin Albert on more than one occasion, didn't she?
Yeah, occasionally I would go to visit the friends that I had there.
You would even spend the night in the apartment with them, correct?
Maybe a handful of times, yes.
You've taken photographs with Caitlin Albert, correct?
I'm in pictures with her, yes.
You've been to baby showers with Caitlin Albert over the years.
I have attended a baby shower with her,
Had
yes.
celebrations with her over the years. Correct?
Yeah, we socialize, like I said, group settings, social events. I will see her.
Keys, mobile, wallet. Yep. All right.
Your Honor, may I approach?
All right, briefly.
I can see from chat that Something must have happened because there was a boom in chat. How is it that I'm always getting petrol at the most interesting times during these witnesses? Oh well, shit happens. I'd rather keep it running than have you guys get bored while I'm filling the tank. So, all right, there we go. Excuse me. Sorry. So much for a brief sidebar. Alright. Let me just get up to speed. Don't go breaking I won't go breaking your heart. Dun, dun, dun. Sorry, I was playing in the service station.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I approach briefly?
Yes.
May I stay by the witness stand just so I can take the photographs back? Can you describe, first of all, take a quick glance through that series of pages and tell me if you recognize those pages?
Yes.
How do you recognize those documents? What are they?
Objection.
The objection is sustained.
Are those photographs?
Yes. Oh.
The photograph. Next question.
Who's depicted in the first photograph?
Myself.
Do you see, if every one of those photographs include you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Does every one of those photographs include Caitlin Albert?
Objection. I'd like a curative
Sustained.
instruction.
The reality is, Ms. McLaughlin, your relationship with Caitlin Albert goes back not.
He's trying real hard to keep any evidence of her friendship or / relationship with Caitlin Albert out of the trial, and it's not a good look, Brennan. It's just making it look more schemy and
Not
sleazy.
just weeks or months or years, it goes back a decade or more. Matter of fact, more than a decade.
I mean, I grew up at where we live in the same town, so we went through all the same school systems and everything.
May I approach?
Yes.
I can have this, please. The reality is you did more with Caitlin Albert than simply go to the same school system. Is that right?
Yes.
One of these photographs has you on vacation with
Objection.
Caitlin Albert drinking, correct?
Sustained.
You've been photographed with Miss Albert on many occasions at many celebrations with your girlfriends, correct?
Like a sidebar, please.
I'm going to allow that.
Is that right?
Been photographed on occasion.
On occasions, yes.
That wasn't my question.
Oh, go ahead. Ask
My
it.
question was, you've been photographed on many occasions and many celebrations with Caitlin Albert and your girlfriends, a group of girls that you just looked at.
Yeah.
And those include, as we went over just a second ago, 4th of July vacations, correct?
I'm not sure the dates on them.
I didn't ask you about the dates. I don't know the dates either.
Well, I don't know that was a 4th of July celebration. I'm not sure.
Do you see a beach photo with American flags in the background?
I'm objecting.
Sustained.
So you've had, those photographs represent some of the celebrations that you had with Caitlin Albert and others in your friend group, correct?
I'm objecting.
Sustained.
You've gone on overnight vacations with Caitlin Albert, isn't that right?
There was one that I can remember, one overnight that I can remember with a big group of people.
Who was that? Where was that?
That was in Maine.
It was in Bethel, Maine, wasn't it?
Could have been. It was in Maine.
Have you been to more than one vacation in Maine with Caitlin Albert?
No, I don't know. That's the name of the town. I don't remember.
You've indicated that you've had baby showers where you've attended with Caitlin Albert, correct?
I was invited to a baby shower, not Caitlin Alberts, but she was also invited to the baby shower.
Right. And the two of you posed for a photograph together, correct?
We posed around the girl that was having the baby.
Right. You and who else?
A bunch of other girls, her friends.
Right. Was one of them Caitlin Albert?
She was in the photo, yeah.
She's standing right next to you in the photo?
She could have been. Is that in there?
Next question, Mr. Jackson.
May I approach?
No. Next question.
You just looked at a photograph of you.
I just glanced through them.
That's
Sorry.
full line.
The objection is sustained.
The reality is, Ms. McLaughlin, your relationship with Caitlin Albert is far more than simply somebody that you went to high school with. Isn't that true?
I described what it is.
Do you stand by your testimony that Caitlin Albert is, quote, somebody I went to high school, I went to high school with somebody by that name?
I said that, and I described the relationship numerous times throughout that testimony to clarify it.
And you clarified it under questioning by me, correct?
Yes. And Mr. Lally, he asked follow-ups.
And in fact, you were shown some of these photographs last year too.
Objection.
Sustained.
The reason you clarified it is because you were confronted with photos of yourself last year, correct?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. The reason you clarified it, as you just testified, your relationship, is because you were confronted with photographs of you and Caitlin Albert last year, correct?
I just answered the questions that you had.
Right. And you were shown photographs last year.
I was, yes.
There's also another member of the Albert family that you've spoken to about this case, isn't that right?
No.
January 30th, 2022, you were contacted by a member of the Canton Police Department to set up an interview, weren't you?
No, I was not.
You remember being contacted by anybody to set up an interview with Michael Proctor?
The state police called me, and I met with two state troopers. I don't know which one of the troopers called me to set up the interview.
Isn't it true that it was actually a Canton police officer who coordinated that interview with you?
I have no knowledge of that at all.
Isn't it true that the Canton police officer who set up the interview with Massachusetts State Police and coordinated that interview was a detective named Kevin? Do you remember that?
I have no knowledge of that.
Isn't it true that Brian Albert has a brother named Kevin Albert on Canton Police Department?
I know that now.
Isn't that who coordinated your interview with Michael Proctor?
I've never spoken to Kevin Albert, ever.
You can't remember who it was that set up the meeting. How can you say with such specificity?
Because it was the state police called me. The state police called me. It was a state trooper.
Can you wait till I'm
Just
finished with my
hold on
question?
1 second.
Oh, sorry.
If you can't remember who it was that called you specifically, how can you say with such specificity that you've never spoken to Kevin Albert?
Because I have only ever talked about this case with a state police trooper. So there were two of them there when I went for the interview. I don't remember which one called me, but I've never been contacted by anyone in the Canton Police about an interview or about the case. So I know it's not. I just don't know which state trooper it was that called me.
Did you talk to Mr. Brennan about this issue when y'all met?
No, I did not.
This issue never came up
No,
about Kevin Albert or the Massachusetts State Police or your first interview?
no.
You remember testifying about this last year?
I remember you asking me about who coordinated the interview.
And now as you sit here, you're saying it was absolutely 100% Massachusetts State Police that coordinated that interview.
I only ever spoke to the state police about that interview. I wasn't contacted by anyone else to go in for that interview.
Are you saying that you now have a specific memory of how that interview was set up and that it was Massachusetts State Police?
My only memory
Do
is,
you have a memory or do
Could
you
you answer
not?
the question, please?
I don't really get the question.
Can you answer my question?
I don't understand the question.
Ask it again.
Sure. Are you saying as you sit here now that you have a memory of how that interview was set up and it was by a Massachusetts State Police officer?
I always had a memory that it was a state police officer.
Okay.
I don't know which one. That's why I said I don't know.
Isn't it true that last year you were asked that very similar question? This is at 10-56, lines 10 through 15. Question, do you recall being contacted by a completely different officer? Say, hey, Trooper Proctor wants to talk to you. Come on to Canton PD. He wants to have an interview. Answer, I don't remember exactly how the interview was set up. Remember that?
Right.
So as you sit here, you now have a specific memory that that interview was set up by Massachusetts police officers.
That's the only memory I have of it. And when I said I don't know, you said somebody other than Proctor, and I didn't know if you were referring to the other state trooper that was there, because I didn't remember specifically who called me to come in for the interview. But I've never spoken to anybody in the Canton Police about that interview or that setup.
In fact, Kevin Albert is Brian Albert's brother.
I'm aware of that now.
You're aware that Kevin Albert is Caitlin Albert's uncle.
I guess so.
How many conversations did you have with anybody before you actually sat down with Michael Proctor? Either in anticipation of setting up the interview or otherwise?
None. I think once I got the call, I just called my chief that they're asking me to come in. And that was that.
And you got the call from whom?
I don't know which state trooper called me.
But as you sit here now, you're very specific in your memory. It was a state trooper.
I only ever met with state troopers, and no one from the Canton Police ever contacted me about an interview, setting up an interview.
During your interview with Michael Proctor, did you disclose to Trooper Proctor that you had a pre-existing relationship with any member of the Albert family?
No.
Did Michael Proctor disclose to you during that interview that he had any kind of relationship with the Albert family?
Objection.
Sustained.
I want to talk to you for a second about your role when you did, in fact, arrive at 34 Fairview, Mr. McLaughlin. How long had you been a firefighter paramedic at that time, January 29th of 2022?
Probably about 5 years.
You said that you'd responded to hundreds, you believe it's possibly hundreds of calls. Is that right?
Possibly.
How many were homicides or potential homicides?
None that I know of.
So this would be the first one of January 29th, 2022, is that right?
Yes.
And obviously, if you had never responded to a homicide before, you certainly had never responded to a homicide of a police officer before, correct?
Correct.
I think you indicated as much on direct examination that you are not and are not now a trained detective, is that right?
Right.
You never conducted any sort of formal investigation, formal criminal investigation, had you?
No.
You hadn't been trained, you had no advanced training on how to preserve or interpret statements or memorialize statements for evidentiary purposes?
No.
Or for use in trial, things of that nature?
Nope.
In fact, your role that morning was just to provide medical assistance and pretty much nothing else, is that right?
Yes.
And you'll agree that it was a somewhat chaotic scene, right?
Yes.
Lots of first responders on scene, right?
Yes.
Everybody working furiously, or at least people working furiously to provide life-saving measures to John O'Keefe, is that right?
Yes.
People were talking over each other. There was a cacophony of engine sounds and noises coming from people talking and trying to speak over the wind and the howling, the driving snow and wind that was coming down, snow that was coming down, is that right?
Yes.
You hear people in the background, in the foreground, people talking over each other.
Yes.
Emotions, your emotions, everybody else's emotions were on high alert, is that right?
Yes.
So you were trying to do your job under pretty intense pressure and in a very limited context, correct?
Yes.
You didn't have a tape recorder with you when you were asking my client any questions, did you?
No, of course not.
So audio recording of that conversation you claim took place between you and Ms. Reed, is that right?
Not that I know of.
And you've already indicated that you didn't even follow up with a single question when she responded in the way that you've indicated she responded, correct?
Yes.
The words you claim you heard were, "I hit him," is that right?
Correct.
It's your experience that people under pressure, people under stress, because you go to high stress situations all the time as a firefighter paramedic, correct?
Correct.
People in those kind of situations speak in broken sentences or rhetorical questions, correct? Not uncommon.
People react differently at different scenes.
But you
Yeah.
certainly wouldn't say that that's uncommon. Oh my God, what happened? What happened? Things of that nature.
No.
Did you hear my client ask the question of confusion or a series of questions of confusion? Could I have hit him? Did I hit him?
I did not hear that.
You never heard her say anything close to, did I hit him or could I have hit him?
I did not.
Ms. McLaughlin, where are your notes regarding this statement?
I don't have any.
Where'd they go?
It's not in the role that I was in. I'm not in a position to write a report on this type of call. It would be the lead paramedic or the officer on scene.
So you didn't write anything down? You didn't have any opportunity to write anything down?
I didn't.
You're just going by your memory.
Yes.
I'd like to play exhibit 4, starting at runtime 8:50.
Okay.
Austin, just to orient us, can you tell me where you are in that video?
I might be in the middle there, although I didn't get a good look.
With the yellow and the red.
Yes.
I'd like you to pay special attention, Mr. McLaughlin, to your right and your left hands as this video plays. Can we go ahead and play it? Pause it. What are you looking down at?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I would write like stuff on my glove. That's something I'll do as I'm getting the information. Was that your question about notes?
So you were taking notes.
That's just me jotting down the demographics.
Let's keep playing. Is this still the part of the interaction where my client is overly frantic and almost hysterical?
That's the point where your client started to make the statements.
Was she overly frantic and almost hysterical?
She was distraught.
Overly frantic and almost hysterical. We're using different words. I'm asking you about your words. Does this describe her as overly
I think the overly frantic and hysterical, I was describing the entire scene.
So you'll agree that she doesn't look overly frantic or hysterical?
Again, hard to say from a video, but
According to you, well, that's actually, Mr. McLaughlin, it's easiest to say from a video, isn't it? It's a video. The best
yeah, I mean,
evidence.
she's not totally in view, and I mean, she wasn't standing there calmly, I guess.
Right, she looks hysterical to you.
She was upset. She was very upset.
Hysterical?
I might say hysterical. She was extremely upset.
Okay, and this is the point at which Ms. McCabe is saying, calm down, you're being hysterical.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and let it. Pause it. So you indicated that this is the point at which, and we can leave the lights down for a second. I'm going to play it again. This is the point at which you said my client had just said, I hit him, basically confessing to having hit John O'Keefe, correct?
Those are the statements she'd made.
And Officer Seraph is standing right there.
Yes.
You see any reaction from him right there?
I know he turned and told somebody to go get the sergeant. I don't know if that already played. I'm sorry.
Do you see any reaction from him?
He responded, "You what?" And she repeated it again, and then he told someone to get the sergeant.
I know that's what your statement is. I know that's your testimony. I'm asking about the video. Do you see him reacting right here?
You'd have to play it again. I wasn't looking at that part.
Do you see him handcuff my client?
Oh, no.
You see him call anybody over to handcuff my client?
He turned to signal to get Goody down here is what.
So they handcuffed her?
No.
Right. They didn't handcuff her?
No.
Even though she just confessed in front of a police officer, according to you.
That's what she said.
I hit him. It's my fault. I did it. That's a confession, correct?
She said, I hit him.
And Officer Seraph just stands there and my client walks away, correct?
You'd have to talk to Officer Seraph about that.
Oh, we have.
You should.
Mr. Laughlin.
Objection.
Okay, so let's move on. Mr. Jackson, I'm not rushing you, but how much longer do you think you'll be?
Not long.
Okay, so,
I can wrap it in a couple minutes.
okay.
Toward the end of this video. Go ahead and
Are you playing it again or should we put the lights on?
if we can play it again.
Okay.
Continue. Pause it. You appear to be writing something down,
I could be.
and according to you, you're writing under a glove.
Yes.
Okay. What kind of glove?
Just a regular latex glove that we use on the ambulance.
You didn't have a notepad?
I probably did. Sometimes it's easier to just write it down on your glove.
Right. Did you write I hit him on your
No, I did not.
Let's go and play it. Still appear to be writing something down, looking down at your glove?
I might be looking at it.
Pause it. Is this also an example of my client being overly hysterical and frantic?
I wasn't paying attention to her.
You have the lights up. Whatever it was that you were talking to Ms. Reed about, it was important enough that you had a pin out. You were writing things down, correct?
Well, I was still finishing writing down some of the other.
It was important enough.
Yeah.
To write things down. Yes, sir.
Yes, I wrote down some of the things that were said.
Some of the things that were important.
Sincere apologies about that. I forgot that I muted myself manually in both areas, so that that call before was Lady Overlaw'd calling to let me know that there was an incident drop-off. Everyone's okay, but she was a little bit upset, and wanted me to get in touch with the school, which I think I need. I personally believe that I need to, much like certain paramedics should have, I believe I need to obtain full information before I go flying off the handle, because my credibility is important. Now, as I was saying, I'm not still muted, am I? God, I hope not. As I was saying in response to Coke Fairy's question, I have yet to decide whether or not I think this could still go either way, because whilst I wouldn't want to be in the prosecution's shoes right now, I don't believe there's been full impeachment. There's definitely been witnesses that have been more credible than not. I feel like there were questions that very much should have been asked and answered. But I mean, you've got to remember as well, the defense is doing this not just against the defense. They've got one arm tied behind their back because of the way that Bev's acting. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to see exactly how much she is sustaining the prosecution's objections and overruling the defenses. And I really hope that the jury is taking note of that, frankly. Honestly, this paramedic chick drives me up the wall. She did in the first trial, she is now too. The amount of half-truths, the amount of evasion just screams witness that is not credible. But again, it comes down to how how it looks in front of the jury, because unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to be the judge in this because I've got prior knowledge. So,
yes.
For instance, you write down John O'Keefe. That's his name, right?
Right.
You might write down a circle with a slash through it. Allergies. No allergies, right?
Right.
You might write down 46. His age.
Right.
You might write down how he was injured. Hit by a car, correct?
I did not know that was. Well, I didn't know what those statements meant.
You might write down 3 little syllables.
So why didn't you inquire further?
And hit him, especially if it had been repeated 4 times as you claim, right?
Yeah, I had that in my head, and I was going to go tell them that.
And you have a pen. Right your right hand, writing things, correct?
Yeah.
So you had incorrect information. You were going to go tell other people.
I wasn't going to write that statement down on the glove. I remembered that, and I went back to the ambulance and told them.
You didn't memorialize that statement on any note that we have, correct?
No.
You didn't memorialize that statement on any glove that you were wearing, correct?
No.
Whatever you wrote down on that glove, where is that now?
Yeah, I don't have it, obviously.
I know how obvious it is. What'd you do with it?
You just scratch everything out and you throw out the glove.
Threw it away.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
what?
Yes.
Just stupid question. Writing down details on the glove and then just throwing it in the trash, doesn't that violate privacy, protection of patient information, all that sort of shit? I mean, yeah, sure, you can say you scratch it out, but how much of that can you actually do?
So we don't know what was actually on or not on that glove, do we?
I didn't write those words down on that glove.
As we stand here, we don't know what was or wasn't on that glove.
Name, date of birth, no meds, no history, no allergies. And then I wasn't writing that statement down on the glove. I went back to the ambulance and just
But we're
reported it.
taking your word
And
for that.
importantly, it was
But again, as with Jen McCabe and Hoslong to Die in Cold, we only have her word to take for that. See, even if Karen did hit and kill him, by the standard of justice, well, let's not use justice, by the standard of the court, the investigation was so haphazard, it was so botched, that she shouldn't be allowed to be found guilty anyway, because of how messed up it is. There were too many mistakes, and that falls squarely on both Canton.
important enough, as you say, to go back and report the statement, but not important enough to write it down with that pen. It's very conveniently in your right hand, correct?
It's not about importance. I was relaying that information to the ambulance verbally. I didn't need to write it down.
And you, in fact, didn't write it down, did you?
No, I didn't make a report about it.
And you're also aware that not a single police officer out at the scene wrote that down either.
Objection.
Sustained.
That's all I have.
Mr. Brennan, can you do a redirect in 5 minutes?
I can.
Okay.
Ma'am, when Mr. Jackson would show you part of your testimony from a prior proceeding, was he leaving something out when he was showing you that, asking you questions?
Sustained.
When he asked you about whether you knew Caitlin Albert and you said you went to high school with her, did you immediately then answer questions describing that relationship?
Correct.
Watch the phone.
Were you asked immediately other questions about the relationship?
I explained the relationship over and over again throughout the testimony.
In fact, you described the relationship over 20 times, didn't you?
I'm sure it was that many.
You didn't simply just say,
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to agree to disagree with you. I don't feel that it's clear
No, I
common
didn't.
sense at all.
I would say
I think
we're
it is way
acquaintances,
too
not
muddy.
close friends.
Right.
You remember immediately saying after that, I would say we had mutual friends. We might see each other occasionally because of mutual friends, but we don't have a one-on-one friendship or hang out regularly.
Right.
But that's fine, because we're all
Remember
respectful
many
here
more
and we're able to
statements
have
after
contrary
that
opinions.
initial answer where you describe the relationship.
Yes.
Similarly, you were asked about a meeting with the state troopers,
Yes.
and the attorney asked you a question about your memory or suggesting that Mr. Albert set up the meeting. Remember those questions?
Yes.
You were asked questions just like that before at the last hearing, weren't you?
Yes.
You were being asked about who set up the meeting and you saying that you didn't recall.
Yes.
And then you remember being asked about whether a completely different officer set up the meeting. And you said, I don't remember exactly how it was set up,
Yes.
followed by, so that was my next question. You may have told me this. Do you have any recollection who set that interview up? And you said you didn't.
Right.
And you were specifically asked, does the name Kevin Albert sound familiar?
Objection.
Do you remember saying no?
The objection sustained.
Do you remember when you were asked at the last hearing, does the name Kevin Albert sound familiar? Do you remember what you told Attorney Jackson?
I told him no.
And then you would then ask, do you know Kevin Albert? Do you remember your response?
I said no.
When you were there trying
Brennan
to
needs to
help
take
the
a
gentleman
breath
that was-
here. He seriously just sounded like he was badgering his own witness. Like, I get that I'm playing this at 1.25 speed, but damn.
on the ground. Did you know this would become a homicide investigation?
No.
Did anybody tell you this was a homicide?
No.
In fact, when you spoke or the defendant spoke to you, you were simply trying to get background information to help Mr. O'Keefe. When she told you, I hit him, did she say that she hit him with something?
No.
Did you know whether it was with a fist or a foot
No.
or a Lexus?
No.
You mentioned this was not part of your role to investigate. Why didn't you persist? Why didn't you follow up and ask more questions about that statement? What about the situation and the dynamics caused you not to ask questions?
Sustained is to nothing.
Why didn't you persist in getting more information from the defendant when she said, I hit him, I hit him?
I felt bad for her at the time. It was a very disturbing scene, and I did not want to push further down that road. It's not my job, and I didn't feel comfortable doing it.
Did you write those statements down on your glove?
No.
Then how do you remember she made those statements?
I won't ever forget those statements.
I have no further questions.
Anything, Mr. Jackson?
Very briefly, that was a disturbing scene, you said, correct?
Yes.
An emotional scene.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It was upsetting.
Yes. Yes.
For a lot of reasons, right?
Yes.
And that's when things start getting missed, when emotion starts playing a role, correct? That's when details start getting missed.
I guess it depends on the situation.
Right, but this was a disturbing, emotional, upsetting scene even for you, correct?
I felt that for a civilian to see it, it was very disturbing for them.
Probably wasn't great for you either, was it?
It's not.
And your testimony is you never heard my client say, could I hit him? Did I hit him? Correct? You never heard that.
I didn't hear those questions. No.
What you heard was, I hit him. Is that right?
I heard him. I hit him repeatedly.
And changing gears for a quick second, I'm almost finished, Your Honor. You did ultimately start talking about your relationship in more detail with Caitlin Allen under my questioning, didn't you, after that first day? Is that right?
Yes.
That's when I started showing you photographs, correct?
Objection.
Was that when you were seen Show photographs.
I don't know. I've described it so many times. I don't remember.
But you knew I had information that I was going to ask you about.
Objection.
Sustain.
No.
Objection.
Finally, with regard to Kevin Albert, did Trooper Proctor tell you during that interview that he had texted with Officer Kevin Albert about setting up your interview? Did he tell you that?
I have no knowledge of that.
Did Trooper Proctor tell you the reason we're here, we set this up is because Kevin Albert texted me that he had already coordinated?
Never, no.
Thank you. That's all right.
All right, Ms. McLaughlin, you are all set. Jurors, I appreciate you going a little later and lunch to just finish a witness. So why don't we do that? We'll give you 45 minutes, come back at 5 minutes.
All rise for the court, please. Close your notebooks and follow me.
Oh, fuck. That was a rude. And that was fresh, too. I'm going to have to keep the eyes open. Look. No one in chat needs to defend their opinions, okay? Everyone's entitled to come up with their own. The only person that really needs to defend anything is if people ask me questions. And even then, you're probably not going to get much of an answer out of me. So let's just remember to be respectful and cordial, can we? Not that I'm saying that anyone wasn't. God, can I just say, trying to walk the tightrope really makes it sound like people get their knickers in a knot. Oh, fucking court degree in there. All right, so this is what, lunch? So it's something like that. I like having this remote to be able to do this, but holy fuck, how long was that sidebar? No, excuse me, sorry. Oop, too far. Oh, no, apparently not far enough.
Back in session, you may be seated.
I apologize for that, folks. Nobody likes wasting your time.
Thank you, Your Honor. Commonwealth calls Paul Gallagher.
Step on me, please. Perfect, right hand, please.
You solemnly swear to be honest with the court and hearing, please stand here. Truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do. Thank you.
Gotcha.
No, Your Honor.
Oh,
All right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
thank you. Sir, could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, my name is Paul Gallagher.
For the court reporter, would you mind spelling your last name?
Gallagher.
Mr. Gallagher, do you presently work?
As a police officer, I'm retired.
When did you retire?
August 31st, 2024.
When you retired, what department were you working for?
Canton Police Department.
How many years had you worked for the Canton Police Department upon your retirement?
I was credited with 32 years, 8 months of service.
Did you have a particular rank when you retired?
Yes, I was a lieutenant.
I want to go back to the beginning of your law enforcement career and share your background with the jury. When did you begin your career in law enforcement?
I became a permanent intermittent police officer in Canton in 1992. What a permanent intermittent police officer is, it's basically a part-time police officer. You're required to attend a 16-week part-time academy. Your duties include regular patrol duties that a regular police officer would do, but you're only utilized during special events, short staffing, and you're allowed to work paid traffic details.
Did that status change at some point?
It did in 1994.
1994, were you a patrolman?
Yes, and that required me to attend a full-time 18-week police academy.
In addition to the police academy, did you continue your training over the years?
Yes, I did.
Can you share with the jury some of the training that you would attend over the years?
Oh, sure. So I did constitutional law. I did interview and interrogation, terrorism, international terrorism, domestic violence, buccal swabbing, and DEA basic narcotics course. And last duties were I did background checks, so I attended background training, and I did internal affairs.
Before I talk a little bit more about your experience over the years and your progress through the Canton Police Department, I'd like you to share with us generally and briefly the structure of the Canton Police Department. The Canton Police Department, how big is it? How many officers are typically employed by Canton at the same time?
We would like to have 45, but unfortunately, we're short-staffed at this time.
At the Canton Police Department, is there different ranks?
There is.
And what are they?
They are patrol, sergeant, detective sergeant, lieutenant, deputy chief, and chief.
Given the size of Canton, is it a small department or a typically large department for that size?
I would say it's a medium-sized department.
Is Canton, do you receive traffic from other areas nearby?
We do.
Is Boston part of the crossroad through Canton at times?
It is. Route 138 runs from Boston, and it goes all the way down to the South Shore through Brockton, Taunton, et cetera.
Other cities or towns nearby that bring traffic through Canton as far as law enforcement is concerned?
They do, and other states. 95 runs through Canton as well and brings up traffic from Rhode Island.
For a relatively small town, is Canton a busy police department given all the crossroads and intersections?
It can be very busy at times.
You mentioned in Canton that there are different ranks. You started as a patrol officer. Did
Yes.
that change at some point?
It did.
When?
July of 2001, I became a detective.
Did you have any particular or special training to become a detective?
I started attending how to dust for fingerprints. My focus was narcotics. I had several narcotics classes.
Did you engage in those type of investigations on behalf of Canton?
I did.
Did you work with other agencies?
I did in 2005.
Something's just not adding up for me there. Like, I mean, it might just be because I'm being a nosy busybody or whatever. But he got promoted to detective in 2021, and then he retired in 2024, so he was a detective for 3 years? Okay.
He started working with the Drug Enforcement Administration in 2006. I was assigned as a task force officer for the DEA, initially out of Worcester Tactical Diversion Squad, which their mission goal was to eradicate OxyContin and oxycodone distribution at that time. It was during our oxycodone phase. In 2008, I was moved to Boston Division, and there we focused on all narcotics, not just oxycodone, heroin, cocaine, etc.
How many years did you spend as a detective before you received your next promotion?
Approximately 15 years.
What happened next in your career as far as progress?
I took the sergeant's exam, and I became a sergeant.
In order to become a sergent, do you have to pass an exam?
Okay, I must have
An
misheard
exam
what
and an
year-
assessment,
what
yes.
year he got
Is
promoted.
that enough to become a sergeant, or is there another process you have to go through?
That's where they rank you after the exam and the assessment.
What year did you say you became a sergeant?
I became a sergeant in 2017.
Was that your first supervisory position?
Not actually. I also worked as an officer in charge, which you're not technically a sergeant, but when there's no sergeant to fill the shift, they'll use experienced officers to work as a sergeant, and you receive sergeant's pay.
How long did you work as a sergeant for at the Canton Police Department?
I worked as a sergeant for 1 year till 2018, and I was promoted to detective sergeant.
As a sergeant, did your duties change or expand from that of detective?
I was still assigned to the Drug Enforcement Administration at that time.
And you just shared a year later you were promoted to lieutenant. Did you have to take and pass an exam for that?
That was detective sergeant, and I did not have to pass a test for that.
Did your duties and responsibilities expand when you became lieutenant?
Yes, I was brought out of the DEA to work in Canton specifically.
Were there other lieutenants on the Canton Police Department when you worked as a lieutenant?
I became a lieutenant in 2021. At the time, there was 3 other lieutenants.
Were there any other officers above lieutenant at that point?
There was a deputy chief and a chief.
In 2022, January, were you a lieutenant?
I was.
Your duties and responsibilities, do they include actually going to scenes, or was it purely supervisory?
It was supervisory, but we were expected to respond to scenes.
What do you mean by that?
Our chief expected a supervisor on scene at all times, at all scenes.
Even if there was a ranking supervisor like a sergeant, were you still as a lieutenant expected to go to scenes?
Oh, yes.
Did you do that often?
Yes.
I want you to take us to January 29th, 2022. Were you working the overnight shift from January 28th, 2022 into January 29th, 2022?
I was the outgoing lieutenant. I did not work into the 29th. I was the last lieutenant to work on the 28th.
In the early morning hours, around 6 a.m., were you on shift or off shift?
I was off shift.
Were you planning on working that morning?
I was planning on working later that day, yes.
Do you remember what the weather was like that early morning?
Yes, there was a nor'easter, which was snow, wind.
Did anything interrupt your plan of working later that day?
Yes.
Tell us what happened.
Shortly after 6 a.m., I received a call from Sergeant Sean Good of the Canton Police Department.
After you received a call from Sergeant Sean Good, were you informed about a situation?
I was.
Were you told any basic details of where and what?
Yes.
Without sharing the actual conversation, where was this situation taking place?
I misunderstood the situation. I thought it was on Meadows Ave in Canton. I later found out through dispatch that it was actually Fairview Road.
When you heard that there was a situation in Canton, did you decide to change your plans about when you would come in?
Yes, I responded.
Why did you respond?
That's the expectation our chief had for us.
When you go into work, do you use a police cruiser or do you use your personal vehicle?
On this particular day, I used a personal vehicle because of the weather.
Was that different than typical?
Yes.
And why would you use a personal vehicle instead of a police cruiser?
It was larger. It was 4-wheel drive. It was the only way I probably would have got there to the scene.
After you received the call about a situation, tell us what you did.
I loaded up the car with a tent, and I drove to the Canton Police Department, and I got some winter gear from the office, and I got on the radio and advised Sergeant Sean Good, who was at the scene on Fairview, that all officers were held to further notice.
What does that mean?
They weren't going to be going home at their end of the shift until they were relieved by another supervisor.
Why did you take a tent with you?
Because of the snow. The way the call was described to me was a person possibly not breathing. And if it was an unattended death, I wanted to be able to cover the person.
Why?
Respect.
That tent was a tent from your home, a personal tent?
It was an 8x8 pop-up tent.
You went to the Canton Police Department first before you went to the scene.
I did.
Why did you go to the Canton Police Department first?
I had some winter gear there, including a reflective jacket that I thought would be helpful, given it was dark out. Visibility was very bad.
When you got to the Canton Police Department, did you learn anything from any of your colleagues while at the police department?
The only one colleague at the police department at that time was Officer Kelly Dever.
After you got your gear at the Canton Police Department, did you head towards Fairview?
I did.
Other than the general description that you had heard, did you know anything about what was going on there?
Just that a gentleman was found unconscious in the snow, possibly not breathing.
You mentioned the term unintended death. What does that mean?
An unattended death is a death where someone dies alone, and you don't know the reason. It doesn't mean there's foul play. In fact, 99% of the time, it's natural causes.
Is there a process for the Canton Police Department when they learn of any death, unintended or not? Is there a process you need to follow?
Yes, there is.
And what is that process?
That's the call. The Norfolk County DA's office, their CPAC unit,
Yes, I
crime
did,
prevention
Joseph.
and
Thank you.
control. They have
Thank you for
jurisdictions
the
over deaths and unattended deaths.
You mentioned a CPAC unit. What type of officers or law enforcement is the CPAC unit?
It's manned by the Massachusetts State Police.
Are you required by statute to contact CPAC or the Massachusetts State Police, even if it's an unintended death?
Yes.
Did you follow that process?
Sergeant Lank followed that process.
Is that one of the officers who worked under you?
Yes, that is correct.
Did you know if Sergeant Lank was at the scene when you were leaving Canton, or did you learn at some point when you got there whether Sergeant Lank was at Fairview?
When I got there, I saw the black Toyota Tundra, which is operated by our detectives there, and then I saw him.
When Canton Police Department first contacted the Massachusetts State Police or the CPAC unit about the information, do you have an understanding whether or not the Massachusetts State Police were going to respond or not?
They were not responding.
So when you got to Fairview Road, were there any other law enforcement officers other than Canton
Thank you,
police
Aaron.
officers?
No, there was not.
When you appeared at Fairview Road or arrived, were you the superior officer on the scene?
I was highest ranking officer.
As you're pulling up to Fairview that morning, what's the first thing you see when you get there?
As I pull up, I see the last of the fire apparatus pulling away. I got out of the vehicle. The first one I encountered was Sergeant Sean Good, who was the shift supervisor.
Did you see any other of your officers there?
I did. I saw Lieutenant Lank further down, and further down, I saw two other cruisers, which ended up being Officer Mullaney and Officer Sarif.
Did any of the cruisers or vehicles have lights on?
They did.
Did you hear any sirens?
No, there wouldn't be any sirens.
Why wouldn't there be?
Sirens are used to move traffic. There was no traffic. It was a blizzard. There were no cars on the road. You might see an occasional plow.
Did you ever learn the general area where the person was found?
Yes,
At that time, did you know who the person was?
I did. I knew him by name, yes.
Did someone inform you of who the person was?
Sergeant Sean Good did, yes.
Okay. And who was the person that you learned was on the ground?
John O'Keefe.
Had you known John O'Keefe?
I knew of John O'Keefe. I had never met John O'Keefe.
When you first arrived at Fairview, was Mr. O'Keefe still on the ground?
He was not.
Was he at the scene?
He was not.
So when you got to the scene at Fairview, Mr. O'Keefe was already gone?
Yes, he had been transported to the hospital.
So did you ever firsthand see exactly where Mr. O'Keefe was lying when he was found?
I did not.
Did anybody point out to you the general area?
Yes.
Did you have a chance at that point to, well, obviously you didn't have a chance to examine or look at Mr. O'Keefe. Did you have a chance to look in the general area where you were told he was found?
I did.
Tell us a little bit more about the weather now that you're standing outside Fairview Road. What's the visibility like? What's the temperature like? What are the conditions like?
So it was terrible. It was blizzard-like. The wind would blow in your face. It would change directions. The snow was an icy snow. In the wind, you had to actually talk loud to be heard. Somebody right next to you, and it was your typical New England blizzard, basically.
At this point, did you have any position as you assessed the area whether this was a criminal investigation?
When we had no crime at that time.
When you were there, were you looking for anything?
Yes, I was examining the scene.
At that point, did you have any reason to start a criminal investigation?
Not at that time, no.
When you learned that Mr. O'Keefe was found outside, did you go look at the particular area?
Yes.
Can you describe the area that was shown to you where Mr. O'Keefe was found?
Sure. It was on the left side of the property of 34 Fairview. You could see where first responders and witnesses and police officers had walked up to the area. It was by a flagpole on the property line of number 32 Fairview.
What was the lighting condition at that point in that area?
It was dark. It was sun was coming up, but due to the weather and the cloud cover and the snow, its visibility still was not great.
Were the law enforcement vehicles providing any light for the area?
No.
How about the house? Was there any bright lights coming out of the house illuminating that area?
I didn't see any lights, window lights on. There may have been an exterior, the door light at one or two houses.
In addition to the law enforcement officers that were there, did you see any civilians when you got there?
No, there were no civilians there.
While you were outside looking at the area, did any civilians ever come out?
No, not at all.
Any civilians ever come out of 34 Fairview?
No.
How about next door, 32 Fairview? Did you ever see any civilians come out of that address?
Nobody ever came out of the house.
Across the street, is there homes across the street from 34 Fairview?
There is.
Did you see anybody come out of either one of those houses?
Did not see anybody come out of those houses.
When you were outside and you were shown the area where you were told Mr. O'Keefe was found, did you try to do anything regarding that area to identify the area itself?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again?
Yes. The area where you were told Mr. O'Keefe was found, did you try to do anything around that area to identify the area?
Well, it was marked out with crime scene tape at that time. And what I saw was pink blood, and it was in a circular pattern.
Was the crime scene tape holding up at all?
No, it was not. It was blowing wildly in the wind. And at one point, it was actually blowing in. It was triangular, and it was actually blowing into the crime scene.
Was the tape helping at all?
No, it was not.
Was there any use putting a tent up at that point?
No, there wasn't, not due to the high winds.
Did you learn whether any of the officers had, at any point before you got there, gone into Fairview Road?
Yes.
Who did you learn went into Fairview Road?
Both Sergeant Good and Detective Sergeant Lake went into Fairview Road.
Did you know how long they were inside for?
Oh, no, did you know that?
I did not.
At that point, did you go and speak to anybody in any of the nearby homes?
I did not.
When you were at this scene
I would presume
and
the
you
pink
saw
blood
what
would
was
be
happening
blood
in the
mixed
weather,
with
did you make a
snow.
decision to do anything?
Yes.
What did you decide you were going to do?
Since the state police were not responding, I decided to process the area where Mr. O'Keefe was found and try to find out why he had the medical episode he was having.
If you understood this to be a medical episode, and at that point you didn't have any information it was a crime scene, why were you taking the time and effort to process the scene under these conditions?
Because that's what we do. Even the hospital, there could be a reason that there's obviously a reason he's there. I think we had a duty and obligation to check around where he was found and see if there was any explanation to what caused his medical condition.
Did you focus on a particular area when you decided to look around?
I did.
What area were you going to look at?
Where it was pointed out he was found and where the blood pattern was.
Were you thinking about looking in any other areas around that?
Not at that time.
Why not?
We didn't have any reason to. We only had the area where he was found.
And at that point, did you have any idea what caused his injuries?
We had none.
At this point, when you were pointed or you're looking at the area where Mr. O'Keefe was found, was the area getting covered up at all?
Yes, it was.
With what?
Snow.
How quickly?
Very quickly. I believe it was forecasted to come down to 1 to 2 inches an hour, if I recall.
Did you have any idea how hard the ground was at that point?
It was frozen.
Did you have any idea?
It was frozen.
I'll allow it.
Of course you will.
How deep was the snow covering that frozen ground?
Approximately 4 inches at that time.
When you wanted to look around the area, did you consider using a rake or a shovel?
I did.
And did you?
I did not.
Why didn't you use a shovel at that point?
I was afraid I would miss something or possibly break something.
What could you break with a shovel?
Anything, glass or anything of that nature.
What was your decision about how you would search that area? What did you want to see?
I wanted to see anything that was possible, whether it was any type of weapon or any type of medical bottle or any reason that he could have come to where he was.
Did you think of a way that you could look below the top of the snow without unresting the scene?
Yes, I did.
And what did you conclude?
Because of the blood, the pink spots I thought might be blood, I thought a leaf blower would be the best method because I have seen it used and to remove light layers of snow, and it can be controlled.
And after having seen that
Oh,
before,
come
making that
on.
decision, what was the benefit of a leaf blower over a shovel?
I wasn't going to miss anything with a leaf blower, much better control.
And Control, tell us what your intention, what was your hope with the leaf blower?
What the fuck?
To clear the area.
So you're saying that you might miss something with the shovel because of the snow, but you're not worried about blowing away potential, I don't know, hair, DNA evidence, small particles, pieces of glass. You're not worried about that blowing away? I call bullshit.
Controlled, slowly, so any potential evidence of what happened to Mr. O'Keefe wouldn't be
Was
lost.
he out there with a
Did you have a leaf blower with you?
Did not.
So what did you do?
Sergeant Good volunteered to go get a leaf blower.
Did you remain at the scene?
I did.
And during this time, are you still have no information that it's a crime scene?
We had no information on a crime at that time.
Did Sergeant Good come back with a leaf blower?
He did.
Did you try to get any other items to help you?
Not that I recall.
Okay. When Sergeant Good came back with the leaf blower, did you use it?
I did.
Was it successful?
Very.
Tell us what you did.
I started with low speed and began whisking away the snow. And then I saw how it was uncovering those pink spots, becoming brighter red. So I verified it was frozen or coagulated blood at that time. And so out of the abundance of caution, I decided that that was something we may want to collect.
Why did you want to collect that?
Just out of abundance of caution, DNA. I expected it to be John's DNA. And I wasn't going to get a second chance at it. It was either collect it or never have it.
Were you making quick decisions under these circumstances?
Yes.
Did you ask somebody to get a container to put the coagulated blood in?
I ended up getting the containers.
Where did you get them from?
I got them from Lieutenant Kelleher, who lived in the neighborhood.
Did Lieutenant Kelleher ever come over to the scene?
He did not.
Did he work for the Canton Police Department?
He did.
Why didn't he come over to the scene with you?
Because he originally thought the scene was at 32.
Did you ask him to come over to the scene to help you?
No.
Did you expect him to come over to help you?
No.
Did you prefer he not?
Correct.
So when you get the containers, were they plastic cups?
Yes, they were red Solo cups.
And what was the purpose of using the red Solo cups?
They were plastic. They weren't going to leak.
Red Solo cups.
They weren't going to get soggy. They were large. I needed a small sample. My thought was because it was frozen or coagulated, that we could collect it transport it, and transfer it to the crime lab, who could extract the DNA however they saw best fit.
Do sometimes the crime lab has evidence and sometimes not?
Of course, yes.
Is that your decision?
No.
You were telling us about the leaf blower. Does it serve to excavate the area?
It did.
Did you begin that process?
I did.
And when you did that, did you try to memorialize it?
Yes, I did.
How did you do that?
I had Sergeant Good videotape it.
Why did you have Sergeant Good memorialize your efforts to excavate the area?
I thought someone may wonder why I decided to use a leaf blower, so I wanted to.
Why the hell can Brennan not say regular words? Excavate. Are you serious right now? He can't say Alesi. He can't say Alessi. He can't say excavate. There was another one yesterday. Did this guy learn English from? Oh wait, no, I'm not going to make that joke. Never mind. I like having my thumbs.
Demonstrate its effectiveness.
I'm going to move to introduce 2 videos that council has.
So there's no objection to these videos, right?
No objection.
Exhibit 51.
Thank you. With the court's permission, can I show the jury the videos?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, can we show number 1, please?
Okay, so the leaf blower wasn't quiet then.
Could you, Ms. Gilman, stop at the end of the video so it's a still frame? That's good right there. Sir, who's the person holding the leaf blower?
That is me.
Did the leaf blower work as you had hoped?
It was great.
You see other footprints around that area.
Correct.
Do you know how those footprints got there?
Some of them were from first responders. Some of them were for witnesses. The ones up top by the flagpole were for when the officers put out the crime scene tape.
Did officers try to wrap the crime scene tape around the flagpole?
They did wrap it around the flagpole, yes.
I see. And from that vantage point, could you see the side and front yard?
Yes.
Did the side yard have any footprints or evidence that anything was dragged through the side yard?
No, not at all.
How about the front yard? Did the front yard have any evidence that anybody had walked across it or dragged anything across it?
It had one set of prints from Sergeant Lang.
Other than Sergeant Lang's footprints across the front yard, was there any other impediment?
No, not that I saw.
I'm going to ask if we could see the second video, please, Ms. Gilmer. Could you stop there, please? You see the end of the leaf blower?
I do.
There's an object just below it at like 7 o'clock. Do you see that?
I do.
Did you discover something in that area?
We did.
What did you discover?
It's a cocktail glass.
Was it, did it have any damage to it?
It did.
Describe that for us.
It was broken on the top.
Could you continue the video, please, Ms. Gilman? Stop, please. There's some red spots. Is that what you identified as coagulated blood?
That is.
Below some of those spots and to the left, there's an area that's not white. It's brownish. Do you know what that is?
That's, I believe, just bare ground.
If we could finish the video, please. Okay. Thank you. Could you have the lights on, please? Did you or any officer at your direction obtain and preserve that broken cocktail glass?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
No, sit your ass back down.
Sorry, I'm showing you 2 photographs. The first photograph, do you recognize what's in that photograph?
I do.
What is it?
It's a after we exposed the broken, I exposed the broken glass.
Is the broken glass depicted in that photograph?
It is.
Is that similar or substantially the same way it appeared to you that morning?
That's exactly how it appeared, yes.
Do you know if that photograph was taken as a still image of the video or not?
I do not.
Second photograph, can you take a look at that,
That's a close-up of the cocktail glass.
of the same photo?
It is, yes.
I'd move these two photographs into evidence, please.
Okay, do you want to be 52 and 52A?
Please, Your Honor.
It's 52, 52A.
Lieutenant, what was done with that cocktail glass?
It was bagged and seized as evidence.
Was it brought anywhere that morning?
It was brought back to Canton Police Headquarters.
What happens when it gets back to Canton Police Headquarters?
It gets logged into evidence and it's assigned an evidence number. The officer types in a description of the item. In this case, it was a broken cocktail glass or broken glass. And once he hits the space bar, it automatically generates a property number for it. And I believe in this case, it was 22-18-PR, which means 22 is the year, 2022. 18 is how many pieces of evidence that the department as a whole had collected that year so far. And PR, I believe, means property room.
Why is it assigned a particular number?
Everything is assigned a number by the computer.
You said it's brought to the evidence room. Is that a separate or a special place?
So we have two rooms. We have a temporary evidence room, and then there's a permanent evidence room. Only two people.
Wait, did he just say that in 2022 they'd only collected 18 pieces of evidence? I mean, it'd make sense if it was 18 pieces of evidence in this case. But if that cocktail glass was the 18th piece of evidence, oh wait, hang on, this is what, in January, isn't it? Still.
People have access to the permanent evidence room.
Is there a reason why access to the evidence room is limited?
There is,
Why?
for security.
Even in a police department, the evidence room is limited as far as people who have access?
That is correct.
In the evidence room, is there an officer assigned as an evidence officer?
Not full-time. There is an assigned admin sergeant who is assigned as the evidence officer.
Does anything happen specifically with the evidence? Is it packaged or stored in any particular way?
The glass was put into a locker, I believe, and temporary evidence. And then it's the evidence sergeant's job to retrieve it. But in this case, we were going to transfer it to the state police.
Was it transferred to the state police at some point?
It was.
Were you part of the transition of that item to the state police?
I was.
And when was it transitioned and to who?
It was on February 1st, 2022, and it was to a criminalist from the Massachusetts State Crime Line.
Do you know who the criminalist was?
I don't know the name, no.
Did the criminalist come to your department, or did you bring the item to them?
They came to our department.
In addition to the glass, there was plastic cups with coagulated blood.
That's correct.
What did you do with those cups?
Those were placed in temporary evidence and placed in a refrigerated unit.
To carry them from Fairview to the police department, did you hold the actual cups or did you put them in something?
No, they were stacked in a bag.
What type of bag?
It was a craft paper bag. In this particular case, we utilized a Stop and Shop bag.
Is that any different than a bag from the police department?
This made of the same paper, craft paper, the same size and dimension, other than Stop and Shop and evidence and probably price. They're basically the same bag.
Why did you use one of those rather than a bag that said evidence on it?
I don't know where that bag came from. I was in a personal car. Sergeant Lank was in a Tundra. If that bag is upside down, you wouldn't know it didn't say evidence on it. So I'm not sure where that bag came from.
And the plastic cups, do you know what happened to those?
Yes, they were turned over to the criminalist as well.
Where did you store them before they were turned over to the criminalist?
Temporary evidence in a refrigerator. Temporary evidence in a refrigerator.
Is the refrigerator part of the temporary evidence area?
It is, yes.
Did you bring that piece of evidence, the broken glass, with you today?
Yes.
With the court's permission, I'd like to approach the witness. Handing you a box, gloves, and some scissors. Let me ask you about that box. It has red tape on it. Why?
It's a secure and transfer of custody.
I can only imagine that Jackson's objecting on the basis of lack of foundation for knowledge for that particular officer, because he has no idea whether or not that was put on there specifically, and by whom, for chain of custody. I mean, to be fair, it probably was. I would say it's a fair, reasonable, and accurate description. But basically, the way the Bev's deciding the objections, he kind of has to take every win that he can get.
Were you?
Yes, that was me.
Did you have a responsibility? It was transitioned to somebody from the forensic unit.
That's correct.
Were you personally there when it was taken from the evidence locker and given to the person from the forensic unit?
Yes, that was me.
Did you have a responsibility in role in that process, or were you a passive observer?
I had an active role. I was the chain of custody. I was turning it over to the criminalist to the state police lab.
After that glass was given to the criminalist, did you ever have possession of it again?
Never.
Did you ever package it or touch it again in any way?
No, never.
Did you ever process it in any way?
No.
Did you put it in that box and tape it up yourself?
No.
Okay, I'm going to now ask you to open the box, please. Is there an item in that bag?
There is.
Would you please open the bag and show us what's in that bag?
What's in the bag? What's in the bag? This is the downside that sucks about doing these while I'm driving. I can't see what the fuck is happening.
Thank you. If you could put it back in the bag and the bag back in the box, please. Lieutenant Gallagher, does that appear to be the same item that you found in the area where John O'Keefe was at Fairview that morning?
Yes, it does.
I'd like to have the box and the item marked for identification, please.
Okay.
To the queue, Freddie.
Thank you. When you were looking around the area that was pointed out to you as where John O'Keefe was found, did you expand across the front lawn into the street during your search?
No, we didn't, with the exception of uncovering the 6-foot asphalt berm.
Did you say 6 foot or is it?
Excuse me, 6-inch.
What's a berm?
It's basically a curbing, but it's made of asphalt. It's curved. You probably have seen it. It's asphalt. It's curved. It separates the street from property line.
Why did you clear that piece?
Wanted to see. We were trying to find out why John was having a medical issue, and we didn't know if he could have tripped over a curbing or what turned out to be an asphalt berm and possibly hit his head.
After you made efforts to look in that area, did you return to the Canton Police Department?
I did.
About what time?
It was shortly after 8 a.m.
After you returned to the Canton Police Department, did you receive any information or have a reason to return back to Fairview?
Yes,
About what time?
a little after 9 o'clock.
Why did you go back to Fairview after 9 o'clock?
Sergeant Lank got a phone call that Jen McCabe had more information
And where did you understand Mrs. McCabe was?
at 34 Fairview.
Did you go back to 34 Fairview?
I did.
Did you go with anybody?
I went with Sergeant Lank
Did you travel together or separate?
together.
When you got back to 34 Fairview outside, what did you do?
We parked in the driveway. We walked up, and next to the garage, there's a side door. I don't know if we rang the bell or knocked, but Brian Albert, the homeowner, answered the door.
As you walked up to the door, did you have a chance to look around at the doors in the area in front of that side door?
Yes.
Did you see anything out of place?
No.
You've been a police officer at that point for a long time.
Yes.
Do you receive any training in observing areas or people?
Always.
What type of training? What are you told to look for when you're speaking to people?
I've been BOSAR trained, which is behavioral observation, suspicious activity training, and you look for clues when you're speaking to people. Whether they cross their legs, cross their arms, there's certain behavioral characteristics.
At this point, did you have any understanding that this would later be a crime scene?
I did. Yes.
What happened? How did you come to that conclusion?
Not at that time.
Oh, not at that time.
No.
Okay.
Not at that time.
When you went into the house, what part of the house did you go into?
I went into the room It's adjacent to the kitchen, and I stood there with Brian Albert.
Can you describe what kind of room that would be?
Yeah, it was just a typical family room type room. It was not large. It was between the garage and the kitchen.
You met with Brian Albert?
Brian Albert answered the door and let us into the house.
Did you understand what his relationship was to that house?
He was the homeowner.
Did Sergeant Lank walk in with you?
He did.
Did he stay in that living area?
No, he went to the kitchen area and sat down with Jen McCabe.
Could you see the kitchen area from where you were?
I could see a portion of the kitchen area.
Did you see anybody else in the kitchen area with Mrs. McCabe and Sergeant Lank?
There were people in the kitchen area. There was nobody with Sergeant Lank or Miss McCabe.
Could you hear their conversation?
No.
Were you trying to listen?
No.
Were you speaking to Mr. Albert?
I was.
Did you take the time to make observations of him?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll allow it.
Did you take the time to make observations of him?
Yes.
Did you speak to him?
Yes.
Did he speak to you?
Yes.
Was there anything about his mannerisms or affect that caused you any concern?
No, it was just a social conversation. There was nothing of concern at all.
Was there anything about it that caused you to hone in or be concerned?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll allow that.
Did you get a chance to look around that living area at the
Sure.
items?
I didn't look around, just with my eyes.
Did you get to see that area?
I did.
Did you see anything broken or looked out of place?
No, nothing.
Anything that caused you any type of concern?
Nothing.
When you looked towards the kitchen, did you see anything that looked different or suspicious in any way?
Nothing.
Was the interaction, did it cause you any alarm or concerns?
No.
After Sergeant Lank had an opportunity to speak to Mrs. McCabe and you spoke to Brian Albert, what did you do next?
We left.
Where did you go?
We went back to the police department and were informed that the state police were going to respond to the hospital and that we didn't need to respond to the hospital.
When you heard that the state police was then going to get involved in the investigation, what does Canton do when the state police takes over an investigation?
Well, it was based off of a conversation I had with my chief in the detective sergeant's office.
Was there a decision about Canton's involvement in the ongoing investigation?
There was.
What was that decision?
That we should recuse ourselves from any further investigative interviews.
And why was that?
Because our best detective, his name was Kevin Albert, and he was the brother of the homeowner. And I didn't want any potential bias, whether unconscious or subjective, to be perceived by the O'Keefe's, by the O'Keefe family.
So when the state police got involved and you had the conversation with the chief, was that the end of your efforts towards this?
It was the end of our efforts until, I helped facilitate during the search warrant on February 1st.
And so at some point, was the defendant's Lexus brought to the Canton Police Department?
It was.
Was it put in a particular area at the Canton Police Department?
It was.
What area?
The Sally Port.
What's a Sally Port?
Sally Port is where, when we have an arrest, we bring our prisoners in. It's basically a extra large garage. It has 4 doors, they're numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. We typically go in door 4 and pull towards door 3. Door 4 is lowered, and then prisoners are walked into the booking area, which is also secure. The exterior doors to the Sally Port can only be opened by the dispatch council.
When crime scene services came to look at the car, was that the same day, the 29th, or later time?
No, it was February 1st.
Did the Lexus remain in the Sally Port area from the 29th until February 1st?
Yes.
When representatives from the crime lab from the Massachusetts State Police came on February 1st, who provided them access to the Lexus?
I was one of the people there that was there. I don't know if I provided them direct access, but I certainly would have. And I assisted them if they needed things. That's when the chain of custody, the exchange of custody for the blood samples and the glass occurred as well.
And during their processing of the Lexus, were you there for parts of it?
I was in and out, yes, but I did not partake.
Thank you very much.
Please. Mr. Jackson, is this video up there yours or is it the Commonwealth?
Not mine. Or is it?
All right.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher, you have already established that you were at the scene on January 29th, early morning, January 29th, 2022. We've seen the video of the leaf blower, correct?
That is correct.
So you were integral to at least an initial search of the scene, which recovered the drinking glass that you've shown us, as well as some of the blood byproduct that you've shown, that you've talked about.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. You were the ranking person on scene. You've already described that.
Yes, that is correct.
There were also several other officers from Canton PD who were there with you.
Yes, there was 4 other officers, yes.
Can you just name those other officers?
Yeah, Detective Sergeant Lank, Lank, Detective Sergeant Good, Goode, Officer Mullaney, Mullaney, and Officer Saraf, Saraf.
Okay. When you initially, let me back up and ask a different question. Given the fact that you were the ranking officer, the way that it works in a police department is everybody sort of reports up the chain of command, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
So they would have all reported up to you in some particular.
That's correct.
And then, of course, you report to I think you're the deputy chief, and then the deputy chief reports on up to the chief, correct?
That is correct.
You were involved in not only the exposing of some of that blood byproduct, but also exposing the glass with the leaf blower, correct?
That is correct.
You were responsible for utilizing certain equipment. You chose a leaf blower at the time, correct?
I did, yes.
There was also, I'm guessing, there was also some use of your hands and or the gloved hands with some others to recover some of the items.
Yeah, I didn't use my hands.
How did you get the glass into a bag?
That was Detective Sergeant Lank.
Somebody had to pick it up, right?
Correct.
That's what I mean. The use of hands to manipulate some of the evidence, correct?
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't understand that question.
That's okay.
I thought you were speaking about me.
It's probably my fault, not yours.
No, that's okay.
There was also some plastic cups that we've talked about. We'll talk more about those in a second. Those were utilized as well, correct?
They were, yes.
And you were responsible for the use of those as well.
Yes, it was
So,
my decision, yes.
In terms of the search of the scene, the recovery of evidence, the recovery of biological material, the use of tools to recover those biological materials, all of that rested at least ultimately at the scene on your shoulders, correct?
Yes, I did.
Isn't it true that you weren't interviewed in this case with regard to anything having to do with this case until April 3rd, 2024, correct?
Yes, we can call it an interview. It's when I met with the prosecutor, yes.
And that was about 2.5 years, nearly 2.5 years after
Hey, Jacob
this incident,
Madre,
correct?
hello.
Yes, that's correct.
Michael Proctor, you know that name.
I do.
Who's Michael Proctor?
He was one of the troopers assigned to investigate the case.
As a matter of fact, he was the lead investigator for the case, correct?
I don't know if he was lead or trooper mechanic. I don't know.
As you sit here, you don't know that Michael Proctor was the lead case agent for...
I know he was one of them, yes.
Okay. Do you know that he was the lead investigator assigned to the case?
I don't. I had nothing to do with the DA's office.
Right. I know you didn't have...
I don't know how they assign their cases, counsel. I don't know what you want me to say. I can't say what I don't know.
Mr. Gallagher, I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking if...
I did not know he was lead. I know he was one of the leads.
Okay.
I believe they do it in a tandem, but I'm not sure.
Okay. He may have had a partner, correct?
That is correct, yes.
But it's not unusual to have a lead case agent. The person who's responsible for most of the search warrant writing and the memorialization of and documentation of evidence collection and the movement of evidence and booking into evidence, things like that.
That is correct, but I don't know anything about who wrote their affidavits or who logged their evidence in. I wouldn't know that.
You're also familiar with Yuri Buchanan, correct?
I know who he is.
You're also familiar with Lieutenant Tully.
I know, yes.
They're all Massachusetts State Police officers, correct?
Yes, they all are.
Did
Yes.
Michael Proctor interview you before April of 2024?
He did not.
Did Yuri Buchanan interview you before April of 2024?
No, he did
Did
not.
Lieutenant Tully interview you before April of 2024?
No, he did not.
Did anybody else from the Canton Police Department, your deputy chief or the chief, interview you formally about your...
Okay, so now we're going on about how shitty the investigation was. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. How do you not talk to the first person on the scene collecting evidence until 2 months prior to the trial starting? Holy crap.
conduct and responsibilities before April of 2024?
I don't understand that question.
Did anybody at Canton PD, separating out Massachusetts State Police,
Correct.
did you sit down at Canton PD and provide an interview with anybody at Canton PD about your conduct at the scene?
What do you mean by conduct?
Going to the scene, collecting evidence, securing evidence, transporting evidence, booking evidence, those kinds of things. Your conduct at the scene, sir.
Yeah, be brief. Yeah, I briefed my superiors. Yes.
Okay. Other than briefing, was there a formal report written?
No.
Or a formal interview conducted of you?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. That's interesting.
Tell us when you wrote your report about what happened at the scene, memorializing what you did at the scene.
I didn't.
You didn't write a report?
About the scene that day at the scene?
Correct, about this investigation.
I only did the metadata report. I did not write a report at the scene.
You never, in fact, the fact is you never wrote any report about what happened at the scene, correct?
Correct.
What?
You didn't memorialize that in any formal way on Canton PD letterhead to describe what you did and how you did it at the scene.
No.
Normally, when you report to a scene as a first responder, you would be expected to write a report about that, whatever that conduct is.
I'm not the supervisor, no.
What if you're the ranking person at a scene that ultimately turns into a homicide scene?
Well, we don't know it's a homicide scene at this time. We don't even know there's a crime committed at this time. My
Understood.
responsibilities are to make sure reports are written.
How is it? No, I'm sorry. How the hell, being the individual that collected evidence, being the individual that was basically the sole person on the scene for the most part, taking evidence, taking photos, All that's, how do you not write a report? I don't care if you're the supervisor and that you're there to make sure everyone else writes their reports. If you're the one that's engaged in the activity, you should be the one making a report. What the hell?
Not to necessarily write the reports myself. I'm the supervisor. It's
Although,
my job to make sure reports are written, evidence is logged, those types of things.
under ordinary circumstances, you would respond to a scene as a supervisor, and you would oversee what other people are doing. What's your
That's
subordinate.
correct.
Can I finish?
Sure.
I don't want to talk over each other.
I apologize.
You would want to supervise or oversee what your subordinate officers, whatever he or she might be doing or they might be doing. You're going to oversee that. But they're the ones actually conducting the investigation or picking up evidence or doing the interviews, writing those things that nature.
Correct. Detective Sergeant likes investigation, yes.
So in that circumstance, you wouldn't be expected to write a report because all of that conduct is memorialized by others subordinate to the supervisor, correct?
Correct.
But in this case, quite the opposite happened. You were the one that was in the video utilizing the leaf blower, correct?
That's correct.
You were the one that actually exposed the drinking glass, correct?
Correct, yes.
You noted the drinking glass and actually called somebody else over to take a look at it, correct?
That's correct.
You directed someone, Sergeant Lang, to pick up the drinking glass and recover it as a potential piece of evidence,
That
correct?
is correct.
You noted the blood or the coagulation of blood in and around that area, correct?
That is correct.
You noted where you believe the drinking glass was, in other words, what location, if there were grid coordinates, where it would be, correct?
Correct.
And you instructed others to transport that important evidence back to Canton PD to have it booked, correct?
That is correct.
You also secured the plastic containers in which to recover the blood.
That is
right?
correct.
You also directed someone to get a bag to put the plastic containers in and ultimately transport, correct?
That is correct.
So you would agree with me, Mr. Gallagher, that in this circumstance, you were the centerpiece of the recovery of evidence and the investigation as it was at that time in that limited context. You were the centerpiece of what was happening at the scene, correct?
And I made sure it was documented by Detective Sergeant Lang.
But you didn't find it important enough to write a report yourself.
I think that's poor misrepresentation. There's a person fighting for their life. It was very important.
When you were there at the scene at, what time was it, by the way?
I got there shortly after 7.
Okay, you knew that that person who was fighting for his life had already been transported and was in good care, as best care we can provide at Good Samaritan Hospital, correct?
That is correct.
So certainly you're not excusing away the idea that you didn't memorialize your conduct because you were too busy fighting for someone's life. That's not what you're saying.
No, definitely not what I'm
Okay.
saying.
All right, ladies and germs, that brings us to the end of another one of these streams. Thank you very much. Hopefully you can hear me muted. But as always, please remember, you are not a piece of shit. You have value and do contribute to society. I'll be back in the afternoon to continue pick up where we left off. Oh, damn, we're actually very close just to the end of the day as well, which is very frustrating, which means I'll have to make sure that I queue up this video and the next one. But as always, people, stay healthy, wealthy, and wise, and I will catch you all on
And again, on your way out, please do me the favor, hit the like and subscribe button if you're so inclined. It costs nothing. It's absolutely free, and we'll be friends forever. Bye now.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms
to push their own personal bias. To push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.